taken advantage of by other countries and the drug companies, but I blame the other countries in a way more, the European Union, etc. They were very nasty and very tough to the drug companies, and they would give them a very low price for drug costs in the European nations. And when that price was given, that was it. They wouldn't negotiate. They said, let America pay for the difference. And now, after studying the industry, it's a very complex industry, but I figured it out, and I said, it's not going to happen.
You know, no one knew the pharmaceutical industry could be so complicated. Did you know? I didn't know. No one knew. No, but in all seriousness, don't worry. Donald Trump has it all figured out for us, and he's going to be the cop that stops the price gouging, allegedly. So there he was during a softball interview with Sean Hannity on Air Force One, of course. This took place last night, touting his new initiative to lower drug prices. And look, honestly, our politicians are so pathetic and so bought by big pharma that just hearing a politician, especially a president, call out the price gougers in the pharmaceutical industry feels nice. What would feel better if something substantive is actually done, so we're no longer price gouged. So Medicare can actually, do the unthinkable, negotiate with pharmaceutical companies for lower drug prices, so American taxpayers aren't getting screwed by getting price gouged. Now, the idea of his so-called most favored nation policy is to essentially force drug companies to match the lower prices they charge to other countries for the United States. So we wouldn't pay more than other developed countries. We would be paying the same amount. So if drug makers don't do it voluntarily, the administration is threatening to directly tie drug prices paid by government programs like Medicare to those paid in other countries. Okay, so we're gonna get to whether he can even unilaterally do that in just a moment, but let me give you some more details, because he also said that the US market would be open to imports from other countries and that he would investigate the drug companies that don't comply. My understanding is that we already import pretty much all drugs from other countries because drug companies have offshored manufacturing of vital, critical, important pharmaceutical drugs to other countries to increase their profits. Cheaper labor, higher profits. That happens in this industry as well. But nonetheless, again, I'm coming in hot. I haven't shared anything negative yet, right? So far, everything we're seeing and hearing from Trump on this matter appears on the surface as very positive. It's something that we've been wanting. The thing is, talk is cheap. So I would love nothing more, much to the chagrin of a portion of this audience, to come on this show and celebrate Trump and the Republicans actually doing something material, something real to lower drug prices. But it ain't happened yet. And keep in mind, he played this game in his first term as well. So no cookies for you until something's actually done. But let me continue. Look, he's obviously correct that Americans are paying far more than other nations for the exact same pharmaceutical drugs. US prescription drug prices are 2 to 3 times higher on average than those in other developed nations, and up to 10 times more than in certain countries, according to the Rand Corporation, a public policy think tank. And to add insult to injury, American taxpayers oftentimes fund the research and development of these very pharmaceutical drugs that we're now getting price gouged on. They get grants through the National Institutes of Health. And if we're gonna be funding the research and development of these drugs, we should enjoy some of those profits or get a deep discount on those drugs, but that ain't happening. And that is beyond unfair, beyond unjust. And I'm sure Americans across the political spectrum agree with me on that. No American should be price gouged on life-saving medication, and the fact that we are is absolutely ludicrous. But anyway, so as we discussed, when that executive order was announced, it's not really clear whether Donald Trump has the legal authority to basically enforce an executive order. He can't just unilaterally do everything he wants to do. I don't want to say unfortunately, but it is unfortunate in this current moment that Congress needs to pass legislation. And I say that it's unfortunate because Congress is garbage. Okay, you have hundreds of elected lawmakers who have no interest in doing anything beneficial for the American people. And so they hold these like kabuki theater hearings to get their cute little sound bites that they then spread all over social media to get a nice little pat on the back as if they're governing. In reality, they don't do anything, okay? They don't do much, that's for sure. Yeah, they'll raise the debt ceiling because they have to. I mean, it would destroy the global economy if they don't. They'll pass a budget. They'll, of course, increase funding for our military industrial complex. But when it comes to bread and butter issues, when it comes to solving the very real problems that the American people are faced with, Congress doesn't do much. So that's why I say, unfortunately, it is very likely that Trump needs Congress to pass legislation. And I don't really have any hope there because Republican lawmakers opposed including a most favored nation provision in their big, beautiful budget bill that Trump has been touting. So it seems like it's dead on arrival in Congress. It's very unlikely Trump is able to lower drug prices unilaterally through executive order. But unsurprisingly, during his interview with Hannity, Donald Trump decided to lay the blame for high drug prices at the Democrats' feet.
The pharmaceutical industry is very powerful. And probably the most powerful, considered the most powerful lobby. And the Democrats were making it impossible to lower drug prices. They knew what they were doing. The Democrats never wanted to play ball. They never wanted to do anything. It's the Democrats' fault that people were being ripped off for years and years. The Democrats fought very hard to keep the prices of drugs very, very high. They really are to blame for this because they should have done something about it. And when the Republicans went with requests, they said, we're not going to approve it.
Look, to be sure, Democrats are partly to blame for astronomical pharmaceutical drug prices. They have played a role in aiding and abetting big pharma because they're also corrupted by big pharma. I mean, just go back to the debates that were taking place among members of the Democratic Party in the Senate as they were trying to pass Biden's agenda, which was supposed to allow for Medicaid to negotiate all drug prices. That got watered down because of people like former, luckily, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, people like Kyrsten Sinema. So yes, there is some blame to go around and include that blame with the Democratic Party. However, in the 2023-2024 election cycle, Dems took $37.5 million from the pharmaceutical companies and health products industries with 58% of total contributions. Plus, although Big Pharma has supported more Republicans historically, that favorability reversed in 2020. With former Vice President Kamala Harris receiving nearly 6 times more funding support from pharmaceutical companies in 2024 in the 2024 election compared to President Donald Trump. So they're working overtime, bribing everyone to prevent the passage of any legislation, to prevent the action of any presidential administration that would eat away or cut into their profits. They've got that fiduciary responsibility, everyone, that fun word. You gotta look out for the investors, the shareholders. Return on investment reigns supreme. It's the most important thing in this country. That's why people who freak out about the stock market crack me up. Like, what are you, a day trader? Is that why you're freaking out? Okay, well, you're playing with fire. This country values the stock market more than anything else, period, end of story. Our politicians are heavily invested in the stock market. They engage in insider trading, I believe, based on information we're not privy to. They base their votes on legislation on whether or not the policy is going to hurt the profits of companies that they're invested in. Stock market's always gonna be aight. I'm not worried about that, okay? But to say Republicans have been martyrs, they've been martyrs, everyone, just pushing for lower drug costs is just an absolute joke. So in 2022, Congress approved a law allowing Medicare to negotiate the price it pays for a handful of prescription drugs starting in 2026. It hasn't even started yet, okay? They passed this in 2022 and it doesn't go into effect until 2026. It's like, let's hope that someone comes in and reverses this, okay? Pharmaceutical companies are not happy about this. That same year, the pharmaceutical industry's leading lobbying organization contributed $7.5 million to the American Action Network, a group linked to House Republicans, according to an analysis of 2022 tax forms. Okay, so this isn't just a recent thing. All the way back in 2007, Republican senators blocked another proposal to allow Medicare to negotiate for lower drug prices. And Trump's not off the hook either. On Inauguration Day, Trump signed an executive order reversing initiatives aimed at reducing prescription drug costs for Medicare and Medicaid recipients, expanding the Affordable Care Act, and increasing protections for Medicaid enrollees. I would love to live in a world where a politician says something, isn't lying about it, and actually does it. But guys, we don't live in that world, and we don't have that type of politician in this country. Maybe a few in Congress. Like if Bernie Sanders was president, I would totally believe that he would fight to lower drug prices and really fight, not pretend to fight like Biden did. But aside from him, and maybe a few others, just know politicians talking, they're lying. You should never take their word at face value. And so until I see some meat here, until I see a real plan, no cookies for you, Trump. You don't deserve it. This isn't our first rodeo. You did this in your first term. Either put up or shut up.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.